What's going on today, guys? Welcome back to the channel. On today's episodes of Breakdowns Brian, we're going to be going over my 2016 F-150 again, and we are going to be doing the first ever install video on the replacement race coolant lines for the turbo. As if you've ever read any forums or Facebook or anything like that, everybody knows that's one of the first things to start failing on these turbo trucks is going to be the coolant lines. The big issue is, I believe the 13, maybe 11 to 16 in 2017, they redid the fittings. They're still not this style, and they still do leak, but not as bad as the younger years. I'm also going to be doing the oil lines because I have one oil line that is leaking from the turbo as well. That's probably going to be because I did the exhaust manifolds earlier this year. So if you want to see that video, it's probably a few videos down. This one is nice here because you have fittings that are going to go into the turbo and into the back of the block, and then they are going to screw in. They're not just going to fit in there because that's such a terrible design. So these are going to screw in there. Now there's going to be 3 websites that sell it: MPT, Full Race, and American Trucks. There is no video on it. There is one short on YouTube about them, and that's with the engine out, and they go, here it is, these are the new style, but there's no video or anything like that with these. So I will be the first one to do the video myself. So with that being said, I've got the truck jacked up. I am already at my 3,000, 3,500 mark for the oil. So I'm going to do an oil change while I'm at it. You're going to have to drain all the coolant, obviously. So I got it jacked up, blocks in the back for safety, and let's get to it. All right, guys, if you don't have your standard tool set, I don't know if I would tackle it. This job's not too hard. The manifold one is the hard one. The tools that I have out you're going to be your standard 19, 17, 18, basically all of the extensions, bunch of ratchets, 3/8, half-inch, quarter, any power tools that you're going to need. This one here is going to be for the coolant line in the back to get the old ones off. The new ones, if you're doing the coolant lines that I bought, is going to be, I believe it's an 11/16. I don't know where it is. Like I said, I'm already done with everything. Another main thing is going to be, I bought 3 gallons of coolant. I have used a complete 2 gallons of coolant. So I would probably buy 3 just in case, just so you can have a little extra. I did buy the yellow, even though mine's a 16. I know they switched it from, I believe, 18 and up, but mine had orange in it, so I put the yellow in it. And then oil, if you're going to be doing that as well. Like I said, power tools are going to be your friend. And I think that's really about it. You're going to need your, for these here, you're going to need your T45s and then T40s for the coolant or the oil lines for the bottom of the turbo. Like I said, an array of tools. You know, if you don't have the tools, go ahead and watch the video. I do a decent job at saying what socket is what size and where it goes. Hopefully it goes a little bit better than it did for me. All right, so like I said, we got the truck jacked up. You're going to have to take the fender lining off of it here. That's going to be a 5.5 millimeter, I believe. You're going to have some of the little rubber pieces. You're going to need a pick tool or some pliers or something. Pop those out. Like I said, I've already drained the oil, so I'm going to put the plug back in. This is still going. And don't worry about the mixture there. That's not oil. That is oil in there because I do put oil in that one as well. Right below the radiator, all the way down here, Let's see if we can see it. You're gonna need a long screwdriver, or if you can shove your hand in there. Let me see if I can turn the light on. You're gonna turn that little red knob there. I don't believe it comes out, but this is as far as I've gotten with it. It just kind of pisses on there for a little bit, but that's where that is. All right, first things first, we're gonna get rid of all the charge pipes. All right, so you're gonna have one charge pipe. It's gonna go down here to the intercooler. Your second charge pipe is going to be the pipe that's gonna come off of the air box. I've got an aftermarket one, but I got it separated here for easy access. Take the whole thing out and just put it on top of the engine. After about good 20-25 minutes, the coolant is still draining. So we're going to remove, like I said, you got two of them, one on top, one on the bottom. They are 8 millimeters, or sorry, they're 7 millimeters. You're going to just pop this off here. Just set that aside. I believe the next step is going to be probably your studs here. There's going to be two of them. Now the issue that's going to be with here, if you've never replaced them or anything like that, you might have some issues here. That's why I have such an issue with them saying that it's only going to take 1 to 2 hours to do it online when they've never done it before. And this is going to be your deciding factor, are the bolts themselves. You know, how seized are they? Where do you live? You know, so let me get those out real quick. All right, guys, so this is what your flange should look like when it's off. I had to use a 15 millimeter deep socket. I could get to it from this side, from this bolt. Let's take you off the stand. We'll go under. Now there's two ways you're gonna have to, that you can do it. It's right there. So you can have a 15 millimeter long socket with a long ratchet, probably like 1.5 feet. Or you're gonna have to grab some extensions, feed it up in between here. So here's the bolt or the nut, and get some extensions so you're going to be able to ratchet it here. But I had a long one, a long ratchet, and was able to get that off of there. Now, since we're under it, you can see there's the culprit. I believe that one is going to be coming down from, I don't know if I can get it. You can see that fitting. If I can get my finger in there. Not right. That fitting right there, the silver piece there. It's an aluminum piece. As you can see, it's nice and wet. That's the only one I didn't replace when I did the manifolds, which was dumb. So I could be saving me some time. With that said, it does look like you might have to take the starter down here off of it. And I believe it's just going to be this bolt here. You have to take this one off of here for the transmission cooler lines. There's going to be another bolt, or another nut, sorry, on that one. And there's going to be a, looks like a bolt at the top. And that's just going to be the two of them holding that on. But we'll see when, yeah. So we're going to go ahead and take that off. Now, anytime you're going to take the starter off, go ahead and unplug the negative terminal on the battery, which I've already done. And I will, once I undo all of those, we'll get back. All right, guys, so the starter bolts is going to be one here. You're going to have a 8 millimeter first, and then you're going to have a 13 millimeter second. The 13 millimeter is actually going to be a stud. You're going to, up top here, you're going to have a 17 millimeter, because why not use 3 bolts? You might just be able to kind of shove the starter up in the frame here Here's where the oil pan is. Just kind of shove it up in the frame. Maybe zip tie it so it doesn't fall, and maybe break any of the wires. But you can probably get away with not taking it out all the way out. I mean, it's pretty. If you can get it in there and kind of shove it somewhere, you can get to it. Now you're going to need some Torx bits to get to the oil lines. That's actually going to be right here. So you are going to need a T45 Torx bit. If I can remember from the first time, these weren't crazy tight here for the 2 bolts on the side. Now for the, see if we can zoom out. I ended up pushing the starter motor here out this way instead of having it hang right here, and you can definitely get to the bolts, so you'll definitely have to take that out. And like I said, 2 T45 bolts there, and we'll take those out. All right, you are going to need a pretty long extension there. I've got two. I've got the longest one in the pack and the second to longest one in the pack, and here's going to be your bolts for it. So that's probably why they weren't crazy tight, because even though the head of the bolt is big, the threads are pretty small. All right, guys, so I've got the coolant line off here. I haven't got the bolts out just yet because you need to remove the coolant line in order to get to that one. As you can see, there's a ton of coolant, even still, after letting that drain for so long. I mean, it was probably a good 30 minutes while I set everything up. And it's draining like a sieve. So we're gonna let that drain. It is just a small pin, just here, and that's gonna go inside the fitting. And all you're gonna do is you're gonna get a pick, find out where it is, and basically just wrap it around and pull it off. Now, if you're reusing them, it doesn't matter, but if not, you definitely don't want to. You don't want to lose those. All right, guys. So now, got the 3 bolts out. Looks like it's done pissing. It is loose. The only thing that's holding it on is basically the coolant fitting in the back. But this one isn't going to move too much. Now, like I said, if you're replacing it, probably just go ahead and bend it. But if not, we get back in the firewall here, and that is going to be your fitting. And it's going to be the same thing as this one. That space, if I can get it in there, that little void right there is where that that pin, not the pin, this piece here is going to sit, and that's what you're going to have to get to in the back as well. Or, I don't know. Gonna have to get that pin in there and get a pick. Where's it at? There we go. Get a pick and try to get that out. This is going to be the fun part for both sides as well. So. All right, guys, so the pin, for me at least, wasn't too bad. Probably only took me about 30 seconds to get all the way back in there and grab it. If you want to get it out, the fitting, it's going to be a 19 millimeter. I used, once again, my longer ratchet. If you want to get in there with a small wrench, you can get in there with a small wrench. It basically just breaks free, and then you can get in there and turn it. Pull it out. I haven't pulled it out just yet. It's not too far back into the back of the block. This is what it's going to look like. This one was fine. I believe the ones for the back are going to be bigger than the ones for the turbo themselves. So now let's see what we're going to need to get this turbo out. All right, guys, in order to get to that back one, might need a longer pick. Gonna have to come from the bottom, and if you're replacing the lines, that's fine. If you're not, I wouldn't bend anything, but I had to kind of bend and move the turbo out of the way, and then basically do the same thing. Let's see if we can get in there. Get into that little slot, and then just pick it out. All right, we got the turbo out. You're gonna have to take the AC condenser off if you're gonna swap these out. Here's one bolt, 10 millimeter. You're gonna have to get it from where the turbo was. Break it loose here. There's gonna be one on the bottom side that you're gonna have to get it from the bottom side. It's gonna be not this one, but it's gonna be kind of behind that one. And the other one's gonna be kind of a pain. I'm gonna have to use what I call a cheater tool, and it's going to be a swivel socket. Or you could use a swivel extension, and you're going to go right where the light is, and you're going to, that one right there, right in the middle. You can take the belt off first, or just kind of let it fly and just let the whole thing drop, and that's probably what I'm going to do. All right, guys, so now that we have the AC compressor out of the way, it's kind of just sitting on the side over there. We're going to come up from the top again, and I've got this bolt already loose. It is going to be a T, what was it? It was not a T45 like it should be. It's a T40. Of course, we're going to use a bolt just a little smaller, and that's just going to be like a hanging bracket. And then that's going to hold the backside of that in. So that's the bad thing about the turbo fittings, is it just sits in there by the bracket here. Nothing actually clips or clamps or pressure or anything like that. It just pops right out. So that's why I bought the racing style, if you will. Now I'm going to take the oil return and feed line off, and I'll be back. All right, guys, so once you get, I don't know if I said anything about this bolt, once you get that bolt out, and then basically the pressure bolt that was at T40 that I talked about, it does just come out. You are going to have to give it a little persuasion. Of course, as I drip oil all over the place. Same thing here. It kind of just fits in there with the bolt here. So if the bolt's not in, it's kind of just free floating. Same thing with this side here. You have a nice little O-ring on it, but it's just pressure fitted in there. I'll put a link in the description on everything that I've got. I believe I bought the Dorman from Rock Auto, and this one looks like this one's going to be the passenger or the driver side here, but I have the passenger side in here, and that looks like it's going to be it. Now I think it's going to be time to put everything back together. You're going to take this out. That's going to be your other coolant fitting into the block, and we're going to take that off. That looks again like a 19 possibly. I'll let you know. All right, guys, so if you've ever wanted to know where the turbo screen is, the turbo oil screen or oil filter for the turbo, it's a pain in the butt to get to, but if you're going to be doing your turbos or your manifolds or anything like that, you're gonna have to drop all that. You're gonna have to drop your AC condenser. You're gonna have to get in the back here or over the shock. And that's where that's gonna be, right there. It's gonna be a 21 millimeter to break that thing free. And this is what mine looks like. 140-ish thousand miles, maybe 100 and maybe just a little under. I don't think you're going to be able to get too much in there, but it does look clean. I do have a replacement for it, so I'm going to throw that in. All right, guys, so I got the new turbo oil line in. Now it's the fun part where we take it from off and put everything back on. Now I'm not going to go through putting the compressor back on and the turbo back on, but I am going to go through the goodies here. All right, guys, as far as gaskets, crush washers, anything like that, do your research. Make sure you replace all of those, especially because most of them just are pretty cheap, and you would hate to have something fail because of a washer or something. Now, the bag that they do come in, they do say passenger, which is going to be this one here. I will include a PDF file that shows, like I said, it's a PDF file, so it's all it's going to show is how to do everything. But once you get to the hard stuff, the pictures of the engine are going to be out of the truck. So that's how the PDF file is going to show everything. So it's not going to show all the hard stuff that I'm trying to show you guys. With your fittings here, we'll go over them just a little bit more. The bigger ones, just like this one, you're going to have smaller ones like this one. Those are going to be important depending on which one they're going to go into. You do get a full race decal. You said you have now the driver's side. You have two small ones, and they're going to be labeled as well. Driver's side, this one's going to be labeled. Passenger side, it's on the inside though. So we're going to take both of those, and then you're also going to have these here. They're going to have 4 crush washers inside of them. And that's going to be for here, and that's going to go on the turbo. But we will get to this. Once I get so far putting everything back together, it's just going to be basically just going to turn the video off, and we'll jump to the other side because there's no need to show a video of how everything I put back together. All right, so here's your first big one here. This one's going to go on the side of the block on the passenger side. It's going to take a 21 millimeter. That's going to be the last one that we took out. So we're going to put that back in. All right, guys, so I've done a little bit. If you take off the oil line here, that is going to have to be the first one that you put back on. Just so you guys don't have to do it, because that's what I did. I put the fitting on, tightened everything up, and then had to undo it to move it to allow this to the oil line to go in. It's so the we can get down to some of the tools. It's going to be an 11/16 for these here to tighten these down. Which is kind of a pain because everything's just metric nowadays. So that's going to be a pain. I believe this is still a 21 millimeter, or whatever the equivalent to that is. I believe an 18 might fit on there. Don't quote me on that, but it's an 11/16 for sure. That, I really think that's about it. I don't think I had anything else as far as tips or tricks on this side. The back is a little, this is how I ran the back. because it's a little difficult to get on. So I ran it in between these two, and I'll probably zip tie these together or something. Now it is got a heat shield on it, so it should be fine. And that's how it is in the back. But it's going to basically wrap around and sit right here. Now my main issue is going to be tightening this one here in the back, because that's where it's going to sit. This is how it's going to sit, basically just like this. And that one in the back is going to have to be tightened from the bottom. Maybe it won't be too bad if you come from the bottom, but if I get anything that makes it a little less hard, I'll come back. All right, guys, just one other thing. Your AC condenser is here, awfully close to here. So when you put this small cooler line in, try to maybe arch it up just a little bit, maybe a little more than 90 degrees, maybe give me like 80, 75, 80 degrees here. Mine's not touching, but I know it's really close, just so you guys don't have to do it again. All right, guys, just a quick tip. The bolts for the oil line, right there, there's two of them. Do the back one, the back side first. That seemed to help out a little bit more. And I will do another little hack to get the coolant line, which is in the back there. And I hate doing stuff like this, but there's just no good way to get anything back there. So I did have to cut my 11/16 about that size. I'd say about 3 inches or so, because there's no movement anywhere in the back, especially the one behind the turbo that bolts into the block. That one is definitely a pain, let alone the other one. I would go ahead and leave this one here loose, and then I did the oil lines first. I got those started. I'm going to get the exhaust and then this bolted up next. And then that might be it. I'll get back on here to make sure I don't have any other tips or anything, and put everything back together. All right, guys, we got everything buttoned up with the passenger side. Now we're going to be working on the driver side, and it's going to be the same thing. 3 bolts, T45s, 15 millimeters for the flange, 8 millimeters for here, the clamps, and then T40s for down here, and then pop those off. Make sure you can get the little vacuum line here, and then the charge pipes. Honestly, everything's kind of right here, so it's not too big of a deal. I will come back intermittently and, you know, give you guys any tips that I find that's going to make it a little easier, but it's on the back side. There's no starter. There's no, oh boy, it's been a long day. There's no AC compressor. So yeah, as you can see, mine's leaking there. It doesn't look like it's leaking from the top one, maybe the back, or it could be oil. My fingers are pretty dirty. I don't know. Could be coming from the back. I'm not sure. My fingers are dirty from the other one. But yeah, so that'll be it. All right, guys, so turbo's out. Use long extensions. I think I got like 5 or 6 extensions, long ones for the studs for the exhaust, and I had to use the long ones. The other one that sits here, you just can't get it from here. You have to use some long extensions on there. Everything else was pretty decent. I might have to take out the alternator. Not gonna really be happy about that. There's the coolant line, and There is the oil line. That one was a pain in the butt. A lot of persuasion to get that out. But we'll see if we have to move the alternator. Turbo oil filter. 2016 F-150, 3.5. In order to get to it, got to take the turbo off, charge pipes, turbo cooler lines, oil lines for the cooler. You have to move the alternator, which you basically have to take it out. It's just sitting there now. And I'll show you, there is the coolant fitting, which I'm upgrading. And then here, right there is the spot for it. Right behind the alternator, which you have to move that alternator probably a 1/4 inch, if that, just to reach this, because this here is a 26 millimeter. All right, guys, so this might not pertain to some of you if you're just replacing the coolant fittings, but if you are going to be replacing the oil lines as well, it's probably going to add at least an hour just to get to the oil line, which is about 3 inches from the cooler line. So obviously you got to take all this stuff out, charge pipes, everything. Unfortunately, you have to move the alternator. It has to be popped out. There's 2 bolts, and then there's 2 bolts on the alternator here. You have to, there's a 10 mil here that you have to pop up first I think to get to this one, if I'm not mistaken. This was all done last night. It all of a sudden started pouring on me, so I had to quit. You can move the alternator out from this one, but the bolt on the bottom is, I guess, where it goes in. You have to slide it in, so you can't just move the alternator. Because if you can see here, here's the cooler line here, and then the here's the alternator, and then the that is where the oil line goes into. Now that's going to be also where the filter is. Just like on the other side, there's one for this side. So in order to get that out, that's a 26 millimeter, but you have to move this stupid alternator, I'm going to say not even a 1/4 inch to get the socket in there, because it's such a big socket. You can't get any pliers or in there because there's no movement. So that's the only way to get to that. So it's at least an extra hour just to do the turbo filter on the driver's side. I think I'm going to start putting everything back together. I'll probably come back on for the cooler line here and the placement for it, just like I did the other side. But until then, come back. So here's what the driver's side is going to look like. It's going to be bigger as far as the circumference for the bolt itself. The tube here is going to be a little smaller. You don't necessarily need to buy these. Of course, like if you take it out, it's always good to replace the O-ring here and then spray it out. Obviously, I didn't have much of anything inside here. This one's already clean, but they were both actually pretty clean for being 140,000 miles. So if you want to, you can replace them. I'm not sure how much they are. You can probably get them off of maybe Amazon or something like that, a little cheaper. But this is what it's going to look like. It's going to be a little smaller. I did clean up the edges here. And then spray them down with like brake cleaner. Spray in here with the brake cleaner. Real quick, give it a little blowout to get all the crap out of there. Alright guys, so just like the other side, I'm going to put this turbo line on, or the coolant line on. The only issue that I have found is, as you can see, this one here is a 90, and this one here is not. This one's about a 45 degree. this is how I'm gonna put it. If I come back and move it again, that's how I'm gonna move it. But for now, this is how I'm gonna place it. Unfortunately, there's no directions. I'm the first one to do this, so I'm not sure. I've got the turbo, I got the oil one back in there somewhere. I've got that in. I'm going to put this one in because this is how the last one was in. I had to put this one in first. I'm going to move it up just a little bit like the other side, and I'm going to put the oil line in. All right, guys, so I've got all those fittings on there. I've got the lines all tight. Now it's time to get the fitting in the back. And it's there just on the left. That's where it is. The little shiny silver piece there. It's aluminum. Looks like the only way to really get to it is going to be from the bottom side. And unfortunately, you're going to need a long pick or some really small hands. Doesn't look like you're going to be able to get to it from the side of it. I guess since everything spins, you could possibly get your wrench in there. I believe it's the 19 or the, 11/16 that I cut, whatever I cut down. You might be able to get it from the side and then just unscrew the fitting itself. Maybe that's what I'll try. But I've tried a couple times with pick just to get in there, but let me see if I can just undo it from the side. All right, guys, so I tried it a few different times, trying to get the that piece out there, the little clip. Was unsuccessful a couple times from the bottom because I kind of went from the bottom to the top, from the bottom to the top. I eventually did get a wrench on the end of that, but just like the other side, there's just not enough room in there for like a normal wrench or normal, probably, especially if you're going to be using a 19 millimeter. The wrenches, unless you're going to get a stubby, unfortunately I had to do this again. I actually did this one the last time because these have been replaced already. So this one's a little bit longer. I could have cut it off a little bit last time, but this one's probably about 5 or 6 inches here. And I was able to reach my arm back in there and grab it. Eventually did get it out. It wasn't too bad, but now we're basically going to do the opposite. As you know, the other fittings that I'm going to be using it's going to be an 18 millimeter, and it's going to be a little bit easier because I can get a socket in there once I can get the thread started, and then use the other wrench, the 11/16 or whatever it is that I cut off, and stick it back there and tighten it back up. All right, guys, I got this line in here. The only issue that I had was that black bracket there that's holding the black and silver, I don't know what they are, maybe a fuel line and maybe some kind of sensor. If you're going to be just replacing the lines with factory ones or aftermarket ones that are hard lined, you're going to go around that. I actually had to stick a pry bar in there and just push it out a little bit. It's fine just to push it out a little bit, because the issue with these kind of fittings are if it's not lined up absolutely perfect, then it's not going to go in, and then you're going to mess up the threads. So to get some of the pressure off of it, because it's such a tight fit, I had to move that bracket back. I am able to push it back down. I am going to try to tighten the fitting though. So it's going to sit up just a little bit like that and probably against the firewall here. But now I'm going to throw the turbo in and we'll go from there. All right, guys. Not too sure where I left off with the fittings and stuff like that. So I had to take the oil out, the oil line out of it to get the back fitting here to get on. There just wasn't enough room. I can definitely get the the oil line back on. So the issue that I have now is that piece there, I can't tighten it up because it's not going to swivel. I'd like to mount the turbo and then tighten it up, because you don't want to tighten it up now with the turbo looking how it is and then have to spin the turbo, put it on there. Well, now you're putting stress on the fitting, the braided line, and all that. It is a little flexible, but to flex it that much, I mean, it's gonna, I just don't want to, I don't have to do this again. So I'm gonna try to do that. Yeah, so just be careful with those threads. For a little leverage, I did put a pry bar in to help hold the turbo up, so I didn't have to hold the turbo with like my arm, try to get the line here to go in, and then try to spin it with the other hand. You know, you need 3 hands, so shove this in there. There's a piece back in there that it'll fit into. So we're gonna try and put the oil lines on, see if I can mount the turbo, and then go back and grab the that fitting there and see if I can tighten that back up. All right, guys, so I've got the oil lines back in. Now I am trying to, I've set this up like this with the oil line in. I got underneath and I was able to tighten that fitting up from underneath with everything loose. So now it's just going to be putting everything back together. So put the 3 bolts in there, put the 2 bolts in the oil line right there, and then I'm going to run this last one into here and tighten it down. All right, guys, so I've got the bolts up. I've got these down here tight, the fittings for the cooler line, or the oil lines. I probably should have said this at the beginning. So this piece right here, the round piece, I don't know if you want to call it teardrop or an eyelid. You have to understand that that's just aluminum, and there's 2 crush washers, one on the top, one on the bottom. Now the issue that I'm going to have with it is, if you over tighten that, it's going to crush that black piece, because it's just thin aluminum. Don't really like that design too much. I think they could have done a little bit better, but this is what we have. So everything that I found had nothing to do with torque specs on those. So it's going to be, you know, get it tight, and then maybe in a little and that's it. If you break it, obviously you can't just buy that piece. You got to probably buy the whole thing. Might be able to contact them and say, hey, I just broke this. Can I just order this piece? The only issue with that is you would probably have to call them or an email, and that would probably take a whole lot longer. But I wouldn't want you to go out and buy a whole set, $280, mind you be, just for that one piece. So leave everything a little loose. Don't forget that crush washer like I did. Leave everything a little loose for the exhaust. One more other thing, obviously you can see the exhaust isn't there. I took just that bottom exhaust off, and I don't think I said that beforehand, which I do like to put everything in order of what I do. So I'm going to tighten this down. I'm going to tighten the fitting here down. I'm going to throw it back in. Then I'm going to put the alternator back in. Charge pipes, and then maybe fill everything up. Yeah, so, and then once I get to that point, we'll come back on. Guys. All right, guys, we have everything buttoned up, fitted back in, tight, snug, pushed in fittings, airbox back on, all of this stuff back on. Oh man, it's been a long day, fellas. We got 1.5 quarts in here. We'll get more in once the thermostat opens up, but all I was able to get 1.5 in there. Make sure that the negative is connected again. We've got some fresh oil in her, and we are going to do startup. Now this is like I said before, the first video out there of these new fittings. So let's hope they go good. I'm going to leave everything off, and hopefully we can see everything. First we'll get down here. We got oil. It's been raining for like the last probably 12 hours. These fittings look good. Definitely gonna have some smoke. That one there looks good. It looks like it's holding. Like I said, we don't have anything on the ground yet. That'll smoke for a little while. Still got 1.5 quarts in there. Let's shuffle over to the other side. This one here, I'm really just worried about these. I am missing that bolt right there. It was wobbly, so I had to just leave it off for the moment so I can get to Ford. But it doesn't look like anything is leaking. I guess we will, for now, go ahead and call that a success. What I'll probably do now is I'll shut it off, and since everything looks good and we're not getting any big leaks, at least, yeah, that one still looks good. Like I said, not getting any big leaks. Everything's buttoned up. We're gonna shut her off. We're gonna put the tire back on, lower it down, and then go let it really warm up. Go give it a nice little rip. We still got some oil or some antifreeze all the way up here. So what I'm gonna do is I'll probably leave it running. Maybe let that thermostat open up, because it hasn't ran in probably 2 days. And I think the high today is like 55-ish. So we're gonna go ahead and do all that. So it's been roughly 2.5 weeks since I got done with the install. I don't have any issues. As you can see, it's 21 degrees right now. So they're definitely taking a toll on the heat and then the cooling. But overall, I think they're doing pretty good. I guess the real test is going to be taking about another 6 months, making sure they hold up. But if you like the video, hit that like and subscribe. If you guys have any questions or comments on these, hit me down below and I'll get back with you as soon as I can. Till next time, guys.